Alright team, I bought a new bass. It's an Ibanez EHB 1006 MS, and this is the first time in about 11 years that I've been really strongly considering a different bass than my Bongo 6 to be my #1 choice for pretty much all the gigs that I play. I've been playing on it for about a month, almost non-stop. I have had a ton of performances, and I've been using this on pretty much every single one. Now, I'm not going to be giving you a complete tone walkthrough of the bass because, frankly, I find them boring and not all that informative. Everybody's rig, everybody's playing is going to be a little bit different, and I don't think that really is helpful for a good review of this bass. Let's start by talking about the stuff that I like about it. I've always said that there's really only 3 things you can do to the Bongo that I think you can improve it, which are make it headless, so it's a lot lighter, give it light up side dots, glow-in-the-dark side dots, so you can see in the dark, because I play in a lot of pit orchestras where I need to see in the dark, and then give it a true active-passive switch just in case the battery dies in the middle of a gig and you can't quickly switch to another instrument. And all 3 of these are features on this bass, plus a whole bunch of things. It is incredibly light. It is a delight to wear this bass and play it. I haven't actually weighed it. I think it weighs around 9 pounds, which is ridiculous for a 6-string bass. I have been kind of joking over the past month that I used to walk away from gigs where my back hurt because I play a 6-string bass and they're heavy. And now I walk away from gigs and my back hurts because I'm actually sitting with good posture, and I haven't done that in a long time. So it just feels like you're wearing nothing at all. I also love that from a tonal perspective, this is one of the most flexible basses I have ever played in my life. It really does everything. You have a true active-passive switch, so if it's in passive mode, it does not engage the battery at all, and you can completely you can remove the battery and it still makes noise, which is a wonderful feeling if you've ever had anxiety about your battery dying on a gig. And this EQ system is really, really impressive. Each of these bands covers a wide range. I would actually say it's even a little bit too wide. The controls are pretty sensitive, so it's hard to dial in exactly what you want and keep it there consistently. But if you can figure that out and don't mind messing with it a little bit, it is awesome. One of the coolest things about this bass is it has these divided humbucker pickups. I think they call them T1s. And when I initially got the bass, it was a good sound, but it didn't really make an impression on me. It was kind of just a bland, neutral bass sound. And I tried messing with the EQ, couldn't really get what I wanted out of it, tried a couple different preamp settings, never really nailed it, and then I started to play around with the individual coils. And what you can do is actually tighten the screws on the pickups so that it raises and lowers the coils individually. And so I played around with that a little bit, and I ended up lowering the coil, that is furthest towards the neck, and it just cut a little bit of that kind of tubby neck pickup presence and gave it a little bit more bite, a little bit more immediacy, and that has been a really big game changer for me in terms of feeling like this bass sounds the way that I want it to sound. So yeah, they really, really put a lot of thought into how do we make this bass super flexible, and so you can get the tone you want out of it. Very, very impressive. Another thing that really impressed me is the tone is really consistent across the active-passive switch. You're not engaging the active circuit and getting a huge volume boost unless you are using the EQ to accomplish that, which is actually kind of a neat thing where if you want that tonal boost, you can set your EQ, disengage the active circuit, and then as you're playing, engage and get that kind of pop of whatever frequencies you want, whatever you've set up on the EQ to accomplish a boost right there with this switch. So here's an example of what the passive pickup sounds like with no roll-off. We have a tone control here that's a treble roll-off. And then if I want to engage the active circuit, this is with a flat EQ. Here there's not a huge amount of difference, but if if I want to, say, boost my high mids to give myself a little bit of maybe more a tone that cuts through a mix, if I need to come out for a solo moment, I can play passive. And then engage the active circuit. And you get that nice little pickup without a huge difference in the overall volume, which is really, really nice. When I first started playing this bass, I was a little bit concerned because it didn't have that big, boomy low-end presence that you expect from extended range basses, particularly ones with 35-inch B strings. That said, this EQ was totally up to the task of making that up, and I found just a little bit of a low-mid boost about there. It really makes up a lot of that difference that it didn't have naturally when it's in passive mode, and that really fills out the sound that I was looking for. But one thing that it does do really well naturally is solo bass. This has this mid-range, this high-mid clarity that cuts through a mix really, really nicely in the middle and upper registers. And that in addition to the 32.5-inch high C string, making chord shapes really way more comfortable in the high end, makes this a really, really wonderful solo instrument. In addition to all of that, you've got a ton of other features that I really like about this bass. String changes are super simple and take me about half the time that they used to. All you do is hook the ball end in at the bridge, run it up through this little headpiece here, and there's an Allen key screw in the back that holds the string in place. So you just hook it in, run the string through here, tighten the screw, and chop the string off. Pro tip that I just realized on my last string change for this bass yesterday, change your strings one at a time, because if you take them all off, and then when you're restringing a string, and you go to pick up the bass and tighten the Allen key, the screws will drop out the other end, at the bridge. Don't do that. Change them one at a time so the screws are held at tension. It took me far too long to figure that out. Now, one thing I wasn't really expecting to love about this bass is that it is multi-scale. I was concerned. I've never owned a multi-scale bass before. I've probably spent a grand total of 5 minutes with multi-scale basses, spread out over several years before this. And I love it. It is so cool to have incredibly even string tension. It's one of those things where I just didn't know what I was missing. All of these strings feel great to play. There's no higher tension anywhere. I'm able to set the tension really, really evenly across with a really good setup. And I will say it takes some adjustment. Surprisingly, the left hand did not take a lot of time. It was my right hand that I had the most difficulty with, because as someone who very much, if you watch any of my videos, you'll see my right hand is posted on the bridge pickup. And if you just play it across the strings like that, you end up walking over the saddles on the top few strings, which obviously you do not want. So I've had to move things up a little bit and learn to play across. It's still a little bit of adjustment to make after a month, but not insurmountable at all. Very easy adjustment to make. So if you're concerned about the multi-scale aspect of it, just give it a little bit of extra practice time. You'll be just fine. Now, one thing that has helped with that a lot is that they ship this bass with an optional ramp. This little black piece between the pickups here is just a place to put your thumb as you're playing, particularly on the lower strings. Again, never used one before, popped it on to experiment, and helps tremendously with the multi-scale right hand technique. I can really move my right hand wherever I need it to be across the entire instrument. Great thought to include that by Ibanez. Very impressive that they really thought ahead on that and said, you know what, there are going to be people who want this, let's pop it in there. This neck is pretty incredible. It's very, very thin. It's roasted maple, so it's very stable. The fret ends are totally smooth all the way up and down the neck. Really, really nice touches on this neck to just make it really, really playable. And it's actually shaped. The whole instrument is shaped so that you can see as I'm sitting, it's actually tilted towards me a little bit, so I can see the entire fretboard just by looking down. There's no craning your neck around to get a good view of the entire fingerboard, and that's a really, really cool little feature. Again, I didn't know I wanted, but now I have it. I love it. It's awesome. Now, the last really big thing that I love about this bass is you actually have access to all of the frets on all of the strings. I've never had a bass where I could actually get to the 24th fret with my first finger comfortably. Like, this is not hard to play. And even reaching, if for some reason I ever wanted to play the 24th fret on my B string, I don't know why I would, but it's awesome. I love that this is an option. This deep cutaway is a feature I have been missing for a long time. I have always kind of wished that this upper fret access was as easy as it is on this bass. So all that stuff is really great, and I love about this bass, but it's not perfect. There are a few things that I think could either be improved upon or just make life a little bit more difficult playing this instrument for various reasons. As much as I love this ramp and the fact that they include it with the instrument, it doesn't feel secure. The way that it attaches to the body is just through two sticky strips on the back. You peel them off and you stick the ramp on the body of the bass. It doesn't allow for really a lot of experimentation with positioning. If you want to try the ramp and you don't like it, you have to stick it on and then take it off and probably get some of the adhesive off the body. It does move when I'm playing. Now, it's tiny little movements over a long period of time, but it's definitely lower than when I seated it. I've had to take it off and reseat it a couple of times. I'm probably going to end up having to just put screws through it and into the body of the bass to hold it where I want it once I decide the final height that I want it. I wish there was some different system there. I find it a little bit distracting. It makes me, I gotta think about it when I'm playing, is make sure I don't push down too hard on the ramp and pop it off while I'm playing. I love this neck. It's great. There are a couple rough patches on it. Not something that really affects my playing, but one of those things that sets off some alarm bells when I pick up an instrument and I feel there's rough patches on the neck and it's not even. Sets off some alarm bells on possible quality control issues, and something to watch out for if you're thinking about buying this bass. One other little quality control gripe is that this stacked EQ control, this is the mid control, the cut and boost is the small knob, and then the big knob is the frequency. And they are so tightly set that when you turn one, the other turns. So I'm actually having a little bit of a hard time setting this and just having it stay where I put it. I can't really fiddle with the frequency that I'm cutting or boosting without also moving the knob. I have to grip it really tightly. Again, not a huge issue, but one of those little things that makes me question how consistent the quality control is, and should be something that you're watching for if you're thinking about buying one of these instruments. There are a couple of little flaws with them that you may need to be extra diligent to check out if you're buying it. I talked about how I always wanted glow-in-the-dark side dots on my bass to see in the dark. And they have them here, which is great. But on a roasted maple neck, which is very dark, the side dots, or the material, the glow-in-the-dark material, is also quite dark. So if I'm playing in dim light, they are hard to see, the side dots, when it is not fully bright and not fully dark. If I'm just in kind of a half light, they're really hard to see. I wish that they had used a different, brighter material or found some way to make those side dots stand out a little bit more when they're not either completely glowing or you don't need them at all because the light is so bright. In addition to that making things a little bit difficult to figure out where you are, I really wish that they had not put the fret markers on the fingerboard above the 12th fret here. Pretty much nobody who plays a 6-string bass is using this area of the fingerboard, or very few people are. And with the multi-scale neck, the fact that my dot is here, and to reach that fret, my finger has to be kind of a significant distance away from it from this perspective. They look like, I don't know, 1/4 inch apart, which is not insignificant on a bass fingerboard. I really wish they had taken the side dots here and moved them to the upper part of the fretboard. I've seen other companies that do that. I know it's a thing, and it really makes it feel like the 6-string was a little bit of an afterthought for the EHB line, because they really didn't think about how this would affect players who were playing across a really wide fingerboard, and the dots are way over here and kind of useless. And again, I was talking about that that carved body and neck that tilted back towards you, which is very nice for seeing the fretboard as you're playing. But as a 6-string bassist, I don't really want my fingers to have to go any further to reach this B string, and they really do with that tilted body. It feels very much like I am wrenching my wrist around and playing these octaves down low. That is not a healthy angle for my wrist to be at, and I really cannot figure out how to adjust my technique so I'm not sacrificing range. And it is a strain. If I have to sit down here for long periods of time, I feel that strain in my hand a lot. I do wish that they'd either done less of a carve on the 6 strings or taken it away completely, because as nice as it is to be able to see the fretboard as I'm playing, that hand strain is a lot to deal with when I'm playing like a 2.5-hour show and got to play down in this register for significant stretches of it. It would be really nice if I was able to put the bass here and do this, which is far more comfortable. The angle of my wrist is much, much less. And it's a hard position to hold it in when the instrument naturally does this thing. So while I do have a couple of complaints about this bass, overall, it's a really incredible instrument. And I have to give a huge shout out to Ibanez for being just about the only major manufacturer that I can think of that's doing new innovative things with the electric bass and trying to keep it affordable for people. I know that $1,400 for an instrument is not an insignificant investment, but for a comparable instrument from another manufacturer, you're probably paying twice that much. I mean, a headless bass, a headless 6-string bass with quality hardware, a true active-passive switch, an incredibly flexible EQ, pickups that you can actually customize to the point where you can raise and lower the individual coils for various tones. You can't find that anywhere for this money. And there are, cheaper versions of this. Not with the 6 strings, but, the 5-string versions, the 4-string versions. You can find them used for under $1,000. No one else is doing that. And I really have to appreciate Ibanez for making such an incredible quality, affordable instrument. Huge thanks to them. They didn't endorse or sponsor this video in any way. It just makes me really happy to see, in a sea of vintage-style basses, something that is truly modern and built for someone who is spending 20 hours a week with this thing strapped to them and needs it to do everything. So, thanks, Ibanez.